Hi, welcome back. So, this is going to be my grief story. So, this is the story of when I did the trauma recovery process, what came up for me, what was my um, big breakthrough. So, if you've been following along on this journey, you've done the other stories, you know that my relationship with my older brother was a very important relationship in my life and something that I have failed to accept for a long time. I really rejected the importance of that relationship in my life, mostly because of all of the really difficult situations that we've been in together and a lot of fear. I lived in fear for a long time. My brother, as of late, the last 5 to 10 years, has really um, gone into addiction and with like the bad kind of drugs, like the injectable kind that you have a really hard time getting off of. And he always was kind of unpredictable even before that, but more so now. So I probably haven't seen my brother in more than 10 years, I would say. But the last time I think I saw him, he was threatening to end my life, which is not the first time that's happened. And I think it's really, and this is why when we talk about grief, we talk about having conflicting emotions. And this was like, and like the light side of that is something that I never paid that much attention to. I always was spending all of this time rejecting that relationship and spending so much time thinking about all of the tough times that we've had together. And in order for me to really heal this, I had to get down and say, like, what's the truth of this relationship, and really acknowledge that there are good and bad parts of every person. There are highs and lows in every relationship. And I realized that I love my brother. Like, I realized that he was my best friend. Like, he was my best friend for a long time. And he was a one, like, really constant in my life for a long time. Like, when I was a kid, I mean, when I was growing up, my dad lived out of state, and I had a few different stepdads. So the first stepdad I had until maybe I was like 9 or 10 or something. And then I had one after that. And then I had one after that. And so, and my mom worked a lot. I mean, my mom was basically a single mom. She put herself through nursing school. She had 4 kids. It was this whole thing. So, not very like emotionally present, but she did what she had to do. She was living in survival mode. And I really like commend her for that, because it wasn't easy for her either, and I totally forgive her for whatever. Like, I mean, I love my life, and this is just part of the story, okay? um but anyway, I mean, my brother and I spent a lot of time together, and we were always really doing what he wanted to do. like um so I did a lot of stuff. I mean, we played baseball all the time, we played video games all the time, but my brother always struggled with anger issues. And um, I when I think of it now, I really was conditioned to not make him mad, because he was fucking scary when he was mad. And I still even kind of have this thing where I'm like, don't make men mad, because they might fucking do something to you, which I'm like challenging that now, because I live alone. You know, I don't rely on a man for any of my shit anymore, so I don't worry about making them mad, really. And I keep a stun gun in my car. But anyway, yes, like neglecting the high parts and the good parts of our relationship, I think, was what was keeping me stuck. And like the all things considered, if we're looking at things from like a timeline perspective, the sexual abuse that occurred was like the tiniest blip on that timeline. It wasn't like something chronic or prolonged. Like, I can remember one instance maybe when I was like 3, 4, 5, and I remember one or like less than a handful of experiences when I was maybe 8 or 9. I don't even know, because those years are so fuzzy for me because of how fucking stressful it was. Because it wasn't long after that happened that everything came out. We had a family counselor, and I wasn't the only person that this happened to in my family of the siblings. And one of the other siblings told the family counselor that my brother was like removed from our home. He was taken to jail. Then they put him in like a reform home for kids like 2 hours away. And then he went to like an actual kids jail like 3 hours away in a different city. Anyway, that's like a sidebar. But that's why it was so stressful. It's because I was like, there was so much going on with adults asking things of me and acting really fucking weird and lots of crying. And I basically was just kind of like numb, and I didn't want to talk about anything because I didn't want to acknowledge that anything happened. And then I was like also scared that they were going to fucking send me away too if they really knew how fucked up I was and how I didn't really try to stop it, and I forgive myself for that now, because I really, when you consider the setting of like, we always did what my brother wanted to do. Like it didn't even occur to me that, um, yeah, I don't know. I always fucking listened to him. You know what I mean? And I think there's something really to that kind of level of familiar type of abuse, when it's a person that like you're with all the time, that you love, and like is your best friend, and all the other parts of them too, the good parts of them and the parts of them that you love. It's a different level of like fucking you up, like mentally and energetically. And it's taken me this long to really be able to like face it and come to terms with it. I'm fucking 32. But I just noticed like how this pattern was playing out in my life, in my relationships with men over and over. How like if I was afraid that they would disapprove, or if I was afraid that they would get upset, or if I was afraid that we would have to have a discussion even, or like a confrontation, like any level of conflict, I would just have these trauma responses of like freezing and fawning, or just going along with what they want to do. And I don't want to behave that way anymore. And I really, um, I'm breaking the pattern, but I'm telling you guys, it's fucking hard. Okay. That's why I made this support group. And that's why I made this channel, to help educate people about like my experience going through it, and my experience of, talk therapy is great. It has a time and a place, but for me, I needed something stronger. And that's how I found like the Eastern philosophy of trauma recovery, basically. And so I'm really in the trenches now of shadow work and trauma recovery, and rewiring the nervous system, and comforting the nervous, like different ways for regulating the nervous system. Because it's great to have complex trauma when you're in an emergency, like when you need to act quickly. I work in veterinary healthcare. I work in I help people have babies at home sometimes. And so, in a lot of those situations, you need to be able to act quickly. And having a high tolerance for cortisol does well in those types of situations, in emergency situations. But what I have found in my struggle is really being able to operate and function normally, like when it's not an emergency situation, it's just like regular real life. When it's just like, you know, calling the dentist or, you know, showing up for your friend, like at a party where there's going to be a bunch of people you don't know, or something like that. I don't know. For some reason, like going to places with people, being a normal ass regular person in places where I don't know anyone is really difficult for me. I find myself being really dysregulated in those types of situations. And I do feel like it's helpful for me to put myself in those types of situations. But this is how it comes back to being a block of the heart, because like, am I really afraid of other people? No. I love other people. I love friends. I love connection. But I always find myself being like in new relationships, being like feeling like it's like getting in a hot tub for the first time in a long time, where it's like, this is really hot. Like, this is uncomfortably hot. But if I stay with that, it becomes chill over time and like really nice and like comfortable. And like, I love the hot tub. Like, this is great. Anyway, so my grief story really is centered around my relationship with my brother and how I was rejecting the parts of myself that loved him and the parts of myself that are like him. I spent so much fucking time with him, you know? I spent so much time with him as a kid, and I think this is another way in how I came to incur so much shame and like hate myself, is because I spent a lot of time and energy hating him and rejecting him. And you know, a big thing about, you know, the sexual abuse, him being removed from the home, like, I think what was really more traumatic for me than even that occurring is the way adults would talk to me after that. I felt different. I felt like they talked to me differently. And and I grew up in a small town in North Dakota. So like, when this happened, it was obvious that like, my brother's not in school anymore. My brother's not with us anymore. People can read the fucking jail roster and they don't really have anything better to do than talk about everybody else. And so I became very aware that like, people were forming a judgment of me and people were forming a judgment of my family. And even in times where I felt like, oh, like maybe this isn't happening anymore, like maybe people forgot about this, there would be things that happened that reminded me that no, they didn't forget. For instance, one time, this is like way after the fact, when I was like 16 in high school, you know, when you would like get your books for class and you'd write your name, there's that little thing you write your name in like the first page of the book, and like what year you had it and whatever when you're assigned them. I did that one time. Very cute. Wrote it in pink pen, wrote my name. And then a friend informed me, my friend, somebody I consider to be like my best friend, informed me that somebody wrote something after your name in that book. And I was like, what did they write? And she wouldn't say it. She was like, something about you and your brother. And I'm like, oh, did you erase it? And she's like, no. I'm like, bitch. So then I'm like, then she's like watching me as I'm furiously flipping through all of the, it was like after we put our books away. So it was like in these like 5 fucking large stacks of books. I'm going through every single book. Finally found it, erased it. I'm not going to tell you what it said because it said something terrible, basically about me doing something sexual with my brother, which I was like, damn, super embarrassed. But, and I think a lot of what led me into being a teenage alcoholic was shit like that, like feeling like I've got to, I can't deal with this, the fact that this happened. B, I'm having a lot of emotions about other people knowing that this happened and feeling like I can't accept myself and like my family's just like, I'm just fucked up forever. C or D or whatever, I felt like I wanted this people to be talking about something else. So even as like fucked up as I was, and like as much as I was drinking and doing ridiculous shit at parties and being like extremely promiscuous, it felt good that people were talking about something else besides, you know what I mean? I honestly didn't really care that much about all of the shit that I did that I was when I was drinking, because people were talking about something else at least. I felt like I was getting out from under that a little bit. But the issue with the grief of it is I never dealt with it. I never talked to counselors about it because the maybe one or two times I went to counseling for like 2 fucking years after this, maybe one or two times that I ever talked to the counselors about it, there were these two women. The only couple times that I ever talked to them, they would just tell my mom everything. It was not a safe space. It was not a closed container. And I couldn't talk to my mom about it because she was fucking beside herself about the situation. And it's a pretty like terrible thing to just see your mom crying a lot and being like, this is kind of at least partially my fault. I felt like, you know, it's not very fun. But anyway, yeah, I had I had grief about this. I had grief about my relationship with my brother. I had grief about the fact that I love him. I had grief about the fact that like he taught me a lot, you know? Um and the thing about my brother, even though like he's so fucked up and he's pretty quick to anger, he's pretty unpredictable, and he'll fucking hurt people. He's not afraid to like hurt people. Um the thing about that is like when he's on your team though, best fucking feeling. Like when nobody else ever really fucked with me. Like because that was my brother and like he'll fucking and like I love that feeling too. Like as fucked up as it sounds, like nobody's gonna hurt you, but that was also like different when he left. Things were just so weird and different, and I always felt so like fucked up because of this. And I want you to know that like shit happens in life and like you're not fucked up. You're not fucked up, but I spent like the majority of my life now feeling like I was fucked up and feeling like inferior and feeling like this is like a hole that you're never going to get out of, you know? And feeling like I couldn't talk about it. Like this is something that you're not supposed to talk about. And I love talking about this type of stuff now because I feel like it's so healing to just fucking get it out there. You know what I mean? Part of what has kept me sick and like feeling bad is like a feeling that there's places that I can't go, feeling like there's things I'm not supposed to talk about. And better for worse, I'm doing it now. I can't concern myself with like what other people are gonna think about that. And better for worse, like it's setting the record straight. There's been, especially in my town, like where I grew up. I don't live there anymore. I live states away, but there's so many stories about what happened or could have happened or whatever. And so this is my story. This is my story. That happened and I'm past it now, and there is another way to live. You don't have to keep trying to escape the truth of it. And the truth of like situations like that, any sort of trauma. There's three different things that are involved. There's the victim, there's the abuser, and there's the setting. You can consider the setting. And when I take responsibility for my part in it, when I take responsibility for the setting, so I'm taking responsibility for 2/3 of the situation. I get to decide. I get to decide like where this goes from here. I get to decide what happens. I get to decide how much this does or doesn't fucking control my life anymore. I get to decide whether or not I want to operate from a place of feeling like this is still affecting me. I get to put it into perspective. I get to put it in its place. This doesn't have control over me anymore. This is something that happened. It was a fucked up period of time. And then I spent the majority of my life like letting this control how I was operating in the world. And it seriously affected my relationships. And I would never have admitted this to you until now, until I'm looking at it honestly. Seriously affected my relationships with men. Still probably does, honestly, because I'm still, I love men, but I'm still at least like a little bit afraid of them. And I have to constantly be challenging that and constantly be saying, like, there are safe men. Like, there are safe men. And nobody's like one thing. Nobody's like 100% bad. Nobody's 100% good. Everybody's light and dark, you know? And so, really coming to terms with um, the fact that I still love my brother, even though we had some really fucked up times. We had some really fucked up times. You know, even wait years after the fact, after he got sent away and came back and everything. I tried partying with him again. Like, my mom bought him a trailer, and one time we were partying at the trailer, and something happened. I don't even know what happened. I don't think I even said anything to him, but it was like a switch flipped, and he all of a sudden thought he wanted to hurt me, and I just I laughed, but I did run my mouth a bit as I was leaving because we were drinking and stuff. Um, you know, but I've spent a lot of my life like running from this and trying to escape it, the emotions of it, and running from this fear of somebody's going to get me, or this fear of like, what are people going to think? And I just want you to know that I'm not doing that anymore. And you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go to the farmer's market and I'm going to get a banh mi. And I want you guys to just like, if you're really considering, if you're seeing these patterns come up in your life of like these different relationship patterns over and over again, and you're wondering, what can I do? What can I do differently to get to the root of it? It's in your subconscious, it's psychological. I learned the tools of how to do it in Mami Onami's Wheels Reinvented teacher training. Okay, so I'm a teacher now. I graduated. These are the processes I've done on myself that led to my Kundalini awakening, that led to me being able to like even just be here and talk about this now because I'm not worried. And it led to me creating a support group for people on their healing journey because I did all this alone. And it's fucking hard. And it's hard to keep showing up. And you make a commitment, but it gets worse before it gets better. Spoiler alert. So I made a support group and I'm available one-on-one if you're ready to vibe out and dive in, and I'll be there for you, man. But it's hard, so you have to want it. Okay. You have to be like really done with doing the same thing. Anyway, thanks for listening to my grief story. This is my tip on grief. This is my thing on grief. And yeah, I love you. I'll see you next time.